Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the DLF Trade Show on the DLF YouTube channel. That's our new little theme, by the
Dude,
way.
I love it. You should actually sing that and record it, and then I can put a stinger in for that.
But then you need to have like somebody's spirit fingers because these aren't spirit fingers. These are spirit fingers.
I love it. Maybe I can get a cartoon drawing or something.
Love it. Perfect. Let's do
All
it.
right. All right.
Please don't. No, screw that. Let's do it. All right. But we are here and we are yet again a show of the people. We had so much fun last week doing the listener questions, listener trades. We're just going to do it again. It has nothing to do with the fact that we didn't have a better idea and didn't feel like doing the work to put together an idea that probably wasn't as good as this one anyway. Shouldn't have said
Yeah.
that out loud.
No,
Oh, well, we're
exactly.
here. We did it. It's happening. Let's go. All right. The first trade we have is from Dude 834 Dude. Okay, dude, first of all, that's a lot of dudes. Second of all, why the space in between the 834 and dude? Like dude 834 space dude. I got nothing. All right, but let's see what dude 834 dude's trade looks like in a 10-team superflex league. The trade is Tyreek Hill and DeAndre Swift for Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. Values: Tyreek Hill 637, DeAndre Swift 418 for a total of 1055. Trevor Lawrence 756. Travis Etienne, I just realized I like that little stack right there, 498 for a total of 1253. Can we cross off the running backs?
No,
No?
because
Okay.
I would firmly like to have ETN over DeAndre Swift.
I think I would too. I don't know if the word firmly would be there. Like if someone offered you straight up ETN for your Swift, you would just take it and be fine with
Yep.
it? Okay. Yeah, I think I might at this point. They're the same age, by the way, for people listening. I get 10 team, the Superflex. Even in Superflex, it makes QBs a little less valuable because the demand is less. So the supply is greater and everything else that would make value seem a little lower. But it's still Trevor Lawrence and it's still a 28-year-old Tyreek Hill who will be 29 going into the season. I don't necessarily care about Tyreek's age. But as a team building move in the non-point scoring season, and as a just value in general, because the analyzer even says so, I feel like this is pretty easily Trevor Lawrence side. But I like the idea of getting Tyreek right now because this should be where you get him cheap. When you're not scoring points, when you're just like, dude's going to be 29. Is Tua even playing anymore? Come on, man. Like, you can't be like, you should just give me Tyreek for cheap. Yeah, I guess you're right. This isn't cheap, though.
Right.
So I like the idea in which they were going for, and Swift's value is dropping, which makes me kind of start to like him a little bit because we're going to get to the point where his points per game is baked into, well, his value is going to have baked in that he's going to miss a couple of games, but his points per game is still pretty high. I think I worded that correctly, but everything it's still the Trevor Lawrence side. I like every piece in this trade, which makes it hard for me to sound committed to my answer, but I am committed to my answer of the Trevor Lawrence side.
It's when you're in a super flex or 2 QB league and only one side has the quarterback, especially an elite quarterback,
Elite.
That's the side you always generally have to go with. So yeah, this one's pretty easy. And I believe that is the side that he got too. Dude got Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. So
I'm not going to be sad getting Tyreek and DeAndre Swift, but I'm telling you, chances are this person probably had 3 or 4 starting quarterbacks, and they're like, that's fine. I could send Trevor Lawrence for a little less because I don't need him on my team. That's wrong. Hold on, let me look into the camera. That's wrong. You don't do that. Just because he's not super valuable on your team doesn't mean he's not super valuable on other people's teams. See, I wasn't even seeing myself looking into the camera, but it felt awkward looking into the camera that whole time.
It worked. You made your
point. All right, next one. All right, I'm going to try the Malte Engelke. Sorry. 12-team Superflex. Russ Wilson, the 208, and Nico Collins for Devonta Smith. I'm not even going to go, I don't care that it's a quarterback. I want Devonta Smith all day in this. Okay, but values. 270 for Russ Wilson, 114 for the pick, Nico Collins still holding strong at 38. Devonta Smith 434. So he is worth more than that package in general. It is February. You don't have to set lineups until
September.
7 months plus from now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Devonta Smith is going to be in the Super Bowl, and my mother-in-law is going to a party of old people for the Super Bowl who don't watch football, so that's just an excuse for them to get together, more or less. But they still did like one of those prop bet sheets, and I'm just saying, I put Devonta Smith as her dark horse for the Super Bowl MVP.
Wow,
So
I don't mind it.
That just might be showing how I feel about Devonta Smith, but I also get if you are sitting there thinking, well, he's the wide receiver 2 on his team, which isn't a big deal, but still, if you're not super into Devonta Smith and you want to use him being in the Super Bowl as a sell point, you should get more than that, because the 208 and Nico Collins are absolutely nothing, in which case this is Devonta Smith for Russell Wilson, and you should be getting much more for Devonta Smith than just Russell Wilson.
I would like to say that ever since the season ended, I've been on the buy Russell Wilson train
for the right price.
Yeah, at
This
like disgustingly low prices, because people were like having him as like a QB3. Like he was QB20 in January ADP behind Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, Brock Purdy, Tom Brady, and Kenny Pickett. So, yikes. And that was before Sean Payton came into town, which I think Sean Payton is actually, like, I already thought that Russ was going to return to somewhat of what he was able to do in Seattle without Nathaniel Hackett. It really can't be worse. But then you add in, one of the best coaches that over the past like decade or so. Then I think that you have a pretty good argument for him being able to return back to maybe not where he was in Seattle, but at least being a solid mid to high end QB2 with QB1 spike weeks. Minimum.
Exactly what your expectations should be on him at this point.
Right.
So I'm there for that. Yeah, but
you just like Devonta Smith a lot more.
So much more.
I don't really disagree, because he is like a wide receiver 1, and I feel like in most times you would take a dynasty wide receiver 1 over a dynasty QB2, right? Like we just talked about Trevor Lawrence and Tyreek Hill. Like I'll always take the QB1 over the wide receiver 1, but a wide receiver 1 over a QB2. Like if you replaced Russell Wilson and his name was just Kirk Cousins or Trey Lance, Aaron Rodgers, like you would take Devonta Smith, I feel like, over all of those guys, right?
Yes.
And Russell Wilson's lumped in that group.
Like if you're a Lance person, I think I would stare at that for a while, because that seems kind of even, but I would take Smith over the rest of them.
Sure. So I think that overall this is a very even trade. In order for me to really take the Russell Wilson side, I wish 208 and Nico Collins was just something better. Like something worthwhile at all. 201 or 202, and I'd be more.
That would change it. Yeah, that would change a lot with the amount of running backs there are in this draft, especially because if you're getting Russell Wilson, you're most likely have a competitive roster, so you might as well have a pick that will be able to bolster your running back room a little bit, because that matters.
So yeah, that would be. I think this is pretty good overall, and the analyzer agrees with that as well.
Next, we have Justin Johnson, 12-team Superflex, says he's in a full rebuild. I don't care. Okay, 12-team Superflex, A.J. Brown for Jameson Williams and the 204. A.J. Brown, 777. Jameson Williams, 302. The 204, 128 for a total of 430. That's about how I feel about this trade. First of all, full rebuild, you build around a 25-year-old wide receiver. I'm fine with that. But if you're not, you need twice the value you got back. Like, AJ Brown is a top 4, most likely dynasty wide receiver in a majority of people's minds. He, again, we were talking about value spiking because of how well they're doing in the playoffs. There should be more of a spike on AJ Brown than this as well. Rebuild doesn't just mean sell for rookies and picks and, take value hits if you have to. There's just so much value missing on that Jameson Williams side. And Jameson Williams might not be a thing.
Put this trade on here in the next one too for a very important and specific reason. It's kind of like a teaching moment, because you and I are in full agreement that, like, you don't ever pay for players and what their values could be or could get to, right? Like I feel like that's what this trade is kind of going for is there's maybe an expectation that Jameson Williams breaks out this year and becomes maybe a dynasty wide receiver one, a la what Olave did, what Garrett Wilson did, what we are hoping Drake London can build onto with a better quarterback or better situation, doing that kind of thing. And that would raise Jameson Williams' value. So in a year from now, you could be saying, well, I traded AJ Brown for Jameson Williams. Like I bought low on that and I was able to do that. It's a great trade. Except what is a great trade a year from now may not be a great trade right now. And so you need to be focusing on the value of the players right now, currently. Like the trade analyzer on here says that you are missing 340 points of value, which actually I peeked at the next trade below it. The 1.05 is valued at 380 points. So you are essentially missing a mid first of value on the Jameson Williams side to go up and get AJ Brown. That's just to make it fair, let alone how we talk about it as well, too, that when you're doing 2 or 3 for ones, you should be overpaying for that one because it's a much better, more highly elitely valued player. So there's just a lot going on here that just like you said it perfectly. Like just because you're rebuilding doesn't mean to trade for rookies or super young players, picks, all that kind of stuff. Like you still have to get good value on the players that you have right now. And AJ Brown should be worth minimum 2 firsts, which you're not getting here at all. And also, like you said at the very beginning, he's not the worst player to go into a rebuild with because he's only 25. And maybe if your team is really, really bad and you just don't want those points on there just yet, you still got to be able to flip him for the value that AJ Brown presents now, not for what the values of players that what they could be in 7 months and 10 months, a year and a half.
All right, next we have Ethan Joyce, 12-team Superflex, 102 and 105 for half of a lineup. All right, here we go. Kirk Cousins, TJ Hawkinson, the 211, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a 25 third, and Boston Scott. Never mind, those are 2 startable players. The 102 is worth 495. The 105 is worth 385 for a total of 880. I'm just going to say Kirk Cousins is 345 and Hawkinson is 261. The rest altogether totals 775 altogether. There's no way in any world this isn't the 2 picks. I love getting that Cousins Hawkinson stack. I'm not going to lie. If I have a competing team, I love Cousins as my QB2 and Hawkinson as my tight end. Love it. But I would rather have the 105 by itself over each of them, which means the 102 is way too much because in a trade with the 102 and 105 in a Superflex league, the 211, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, the 3rd, and Boston Scott literally don't affect anything. Anything.
I was going to say, like, I know the analyzer, like, if you look at the whole entire trade, 775 and the 102 by itself is 500, but I'd probably take the 102 over this entire package.
I would take the 102 over that entire side because I always try, like, it's me. I never want to be mean to someone, but like, so I'm trying to find logic behind this. I got nothing. Like, if you're rebuilding, you want those picks. If you're competing and you have those picks, you want better than this. Like, you have the 102 and 105. You try and send them both for Jalen Hurts.
Right. Or like, something. Yeah.
Like, you could probably, like, 102, 105 for, like, Jalen Hurts and Jerry Jeudy. Like, he's now my go-to, like, decent value throw-in wide receiver at this point. But, like, you can end up, and I'm sorry, the 211, CEH, the 3rd, and Boston Scott literally just don't matter. In a 12-team league, unless you're starting 16 players a week, you're probably never going to want to start those 2 guys.
I was going to say, this is basically like they took Kirk Cousins and TJ Hawkinson and they're like, this is what you want right here. And then they just added a bunch of crap. It's like if you had like, you're looking at like a sandwich that had like 2 nice pieces of bread and then you bit into it and all that was in there was just like pickles. And you're like, why? You know? That's what this trade is.
This next one is super interesting. Eric S. in a 12-team Superflex league. All right, I'm going to take the easy side first and say Patrick Mahomes for Kyler Murray, the 108, Calvin Ridley, the 202, 203, and 207. Patrick Mahomes by himself worth 981. I'll do the first two pieces because that's all that really matters. Kyler Murray worth 635, the 108 worth 275. Altogether, that side is worth 1453. There's a little compiling value when it comes into
The seconds.
the 202 and the 203 isn't bad, but
Yeah,
in a
they're not
trade for
bad.
Patrick Mahomes, they probably don't really matter too much. So there is a bit of compiling value, but if you just take Kyler Murray, the 108, and Calvin Ridley, you get more than Patrick Mahomes' value. So I'm not worried about the compiling value. See, here's the thing. I, again, wrote an article about Kyler Murray that's going to be out when you're watching this. And it really turned into maybe we should go try and acquire Kyler Murray because his value is pretty low.
Yes. Yeah. Don't think
I don't. So, like, if I took over a team and, again, complete trash and Patrick Mahomes, this is close to a direction I want to go. And I do like the idea because what's great is if you still have your first in 24, if you trade for always trade for Calvin Ridley, but that's not what I meant to say. When you trade for Kyler Murray, start with a cut and end with an E. And my brain goes to Calvin. So trading for Kyler Murray, if you have your 24 first, is brilliant because he's not going to play for the first half of the year. So that's going to give you an edge on getting the 101 next year also, which is going to be a very good QB class. So
Kyler and Caleb Williams together. Oh,
exactly. So I like the idea of this. I wish that pick was earlier. If that pick was like the 104, so I can say, all right, I'm getting Kyler and give me my JSN.
mm-hmm.
I would be much, much more in favor of it. But I don't hate this. Like, why do I dislike this? Because when you trade away Patrick Mahomes, it should feel like you're getting 1453.7 in value. Not like, okay, when you add that up, it's 1453.7, which is how it feels with all of that. So, like, if you could throw all of those seconds, which is about 400 in value, into one player, which is worth more than the 108, which might be around the 105.
Right, yeah,
Then
just basically turn into another first.
Yeah, then I would take the Kyler side pretty easily in a rebuild. But it's not. So I don't hate this at all. I would, in a heartbeat, send this to go get Patrick Mahomes, though.
That was actually, I believe what he was asking was, he asked if this was all too much to go get Patrick Mahomes, if he was giving up too much.
I don't know if there is such thing.
That's probably true.
Well, there is. And if there is only one player that has a first round startup ADP, you're not paying too much. January ADP Kyler is 13.5. So technically, you just are going to acquire Mahomes for no first round startup picks. So if this goes through, you won huge.
Yeah. I've never heard anybody say, wow, I really hate that I traded for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that ever. So there is that. There really is no price too expensive to go and acquire Patrick Mahomes. You know, I mean, like
99% of the prices paid are not too much.
Right. Like, obviously you're not sending Josh Allen and Justin Jefferson for Patrick Mahomes, but you know, like,
that would be too much
within reason, for sure. If I was sending this, I would probably try to hang on to like 202 or 2 or 3, because I just think that those could be a good like asset player. Like, it could be the end of a tier and you see how it goes. But when I'm trading for Patrick Mahomes, I'm not letting a 202 pick or a 203 pick be the reason why I do or do not accept the trade. So that would just be me. If you're talking this out and this is kind of what he sent you, and I'd just be like, nix one of those seconds and I'll take it, and you're for sure. But if he was really hard pressed to do it, then just do it. Just go get Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. Like Addison said, You're not going to be sad you have Patrick Mahomes on your team.
Nope.
Next trade, we have Jason Zimm, 12-team Superflex, the 101 for Deshaun Watson. The 101, 734, Deshaun Watson, 600. If I'm trading away the 101 for one player, this year at least, because the 101 is worth different every single year, if I am trading away the 101 this year, it needs to be can't miss. It needs to completely bolster my team. If I earned the 101, it needs to be the cornerstone of the rest of my build. That is not Deshaun Watson to me.
I think Watson can get there, but
Yes.
this goes back to kind of where we were earlier. Is just because he could get there doesn't mean that's where he's at right now. I'm just going to go up the list from where Deshaun Watson is in ADP, and you tell me if you trade the 101 for this quarterback. Okay.
Let's.
Tua.
I don't have enough stress in my life. I'd take the 101 still.
Dak.
101.
Lamar.
101.
That's where I would take Lamar. That's the first where I would draw the line. Fields.
101.
I would also take the 101. So I guess I have Lamar over Fields.
Yeah. You have to go around a little bit.
Lawrence.
I'm angry at myself because like 2 months ago, a team that I earned the 101 in, I had the buttons clicked for the 101 for Lawrence Plus, and it was something me and the guy were talking about that maybe he would have considered. But nowadays,
No,
I didn't have the guts to hit send. Now
it's Lawrence
and the 101. If I needed to, I would take Lawrence. If I full rebuild, I want to build. I love Lawrence. I believe he has the ability to be one of those difference makers at quarterback. The offense is absolutely going in the right direction. So I would trade the 101 for Lawrence. Though again, I would hate myself because I could have gotten more 2 months ago if I weren't such a scaredy cat.
Lawrence, if Lawrence was in this class, Bijan would not be 101. We just put it that way.
I can put it that way. I can agree with that.
And then after Lawrence, we get to Herbert and Burrow, and then Hurts, Mahomes, Allen. So all five of those guys.
That's really what I was going to say. Like probably I almost just said just start at QB7, and that's probably the
Well, yeah, Lawrence is 6, so there you go.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Like once we hit 7 and going down, it's probably just going to be the pick for me. Next and last trade. 10-team Superflex, the 102 for Kyler Murray. The 102 is worth $495. Kyler Murray, 600. See, here's where this is tough because the 102. Okay, again, we're talking 10-team Superflex, but we're also talking QB for QB, so that kind of goes out the window. If you're in a rebuild, no, it doesn't matter because Kyler should be worth more. The answer should be Kyler. But the 102 is a shiny new toy that you could do literally anything with. So if you are in a rebuild and you don't want to take a risk on these QBs, or if some people don't like them, that's fine. And you want to move to a quarterback that you can rebuild around. Like I said before, Kyler Murray is the perfect idea because he's not going to play for most of next season. Mm-hmm. So you still are putting yourself on the track to get the 101 next year. So this is fine, especially in a 10-team league where QBs are a little less valuable, and we know that Kyler can be a difference maker when he plays. We want Stroud or Young to be that, but we know Kyler is.
Yep. This is a perfect trade because I would take Kyler Murray over the 1.02 in probably every single situation. But I could see how a lot of people would be like, you know what, I don't really want to deal with the stuff going on with Kyler Murray. And then there's reports coming out recently that the reason why they haven't landed a head coach yet is because nobody really wants to be attached to Kyler Murray for the next 3 or 4 years, however long his contract is, all that kind of stuff. Like, it just seems like there are extenuating circumstances outside of just Kyler Murray being a good fantasy player that I can understand why you might just not want to deal with that. It's kind of similar to Deshaun Watson. That's just like, I just don't really want to do with that. I'm just going to go hit the reset button and I will figure out if I want to take Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Cause I think at the end of the day, both those guys could be solid QB1s in fantasy as well. You just might have to wait a little bit longer for them to get to that point because they are coming in as rookies. And especially if one of them lands on the Texans and depending on what they do in the draft and free agency, like may take a little bit longer, but you know, there are definitely worse trades to make in either direction for either one of these pieces. But I just think at the end of the day, this is a perfect deal on both sides. If you wanted Kyler or just wanted to hit reset on Kyler.
So Russ Fisher at Dynasty Outhouse, Addison Hayes at AmazeHayes _ DLF Trade Show, DLF YouTube channel, show of the people. Catch you next time.